after a huge series finale win over the San Francisco Giants on Wednesday. The Phillies had an off day Thursday to regroup and travel to San Diego before starting a big 3-game series against the Padres before they head into this All-Star break. Unfortunately, the Phillies did drop that series opener to the Padres 4-2 last night on Friday. Just not enough offense out of the team. And, a couple mistakes in the field here and there for the Phillies. And that ultimately led to that 4-2 loss to the Padres. Welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Hennelly. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content. As I had just mentioned, kind of a trend recently. The Phillies offense was very quiet, very non-existent in this series opener Friday night against the San Diego Padres in San Diego. Just 2 runs for the Phillies offense, just 5 hits for the Phillies offense in that loss. Obviously, they had that 13-0 win, but the 2 games prior against the Giants, the offense was non-existent as well. Pretty much, or not, I won't say the whole stretch of games that Bryce Harper missed when he was out for 22 games on the IL with his right wrist inflammation. The Phillies offense also struggled a lot during that stretch. They've had their moments throughout the entire season where they do have these periods of time where the offense just can't get anything done. And last night was one of them against the Padres. So hopefully going into tonight, Zach Wheeler's on the mound. Hopefully the Phillies can get him some runs. They've struggled to do that at times for him during this season. But they need to score runs. They got to do a better job, just playing basic fundamental baseball, getting the offense going. I don't even know what to say. Just recharge them? I don't know. But the Phillies offense just needs a boost. They need something because they have gone through way too many struggles recently, and they are too good, too talented to be going through these stretches. Now, I did also say that the defense was not great for the Phillies in that loss yesterday. They did have 2 errors, and both of them came in the second inning. And in that second inning, the Phillies allowed 2 unearned runs. Ranger Suarez was on the mound for the Phillies in that loss. He pitched well overall. He actually caused one of those errors on a throwing error to first base. Now, you can live by that, I guess, but they had 2 errors that inning, 2 unearned runs. Ranger Suarez only allowed 1 earned run in his 6 2/3 innings. So he pitched well overall, as I said, but those 2 unearned runs came back to bite them because, they lost the game 4-2. There's 2 unearned runs. So 4 minus 2 is 2. That means it would be a 2-2 ball game overall. Extra innings. Game could have played out differently. But unfortunately, oh my lord, for the Phillies, they allowed those 2 unearned runs in the early parts of the game in the second inning, and they lost that ball game 4-2. As I said, 3 of the 4 Padres runs all came in that second inning, so just an unfortunate inning for the Phillies yesterday, and that ultimately led to their 4-2 series opening loss. Hopefully, as I said, they can get back on track today with a win against the Padres to even up the series 1-1 going into Sunday with Christopher Sanchez on the mound, trying to wrap up the first half of the season on a high note and go into the All-Star break and go into the second half strong, confident, with momentum for this big playoff push to try to win a World Series championship for the beautiful city of Philadelphia. Now, shifting gears a bit, I did say Zach Wheeler is on the mound today for the Phillies. Now, usually, if a pitcher pitches the Sunday before an All-Star game, they typically don't pitch during the All-Star game because it's only 2 days rest. And, you just don't do that as a pitcher, especially a starting pitcher. Zach Wheeler pitches today, but he did decide not to participate in this year's All-Star game, not to pitch in this year's All-Star game. He didn't pitch last year either when he was an All-Star. He's prioritizing his rest, get these couple days off, spend time with some family, and go into the second half, recharged, re-energized, and strong for a playoff push. Zach Wheeler is deciding to do that this year. Same with last year. Now, there was this big debate regarding who would start the National League, who would be the starting National League starting pitcher for the All-Star game, either Zach Wheeler or Paul Skeens. A lot of people were, if you look at the numbers, really Zach Wheeler is having a better year overall than Paul Skeens, but Paul Skeens gets more of the attention because he is just a young kid. He is just, gravitating towards fans. They love him. They think he's the best. He's a phenomenal pitcher. But if you look at the numbers, Zach Wheeler is having a better year overall than Paul Skeens. He should have been the All-Star game starter, but that debate is, nonsense now with Zach Wheeler no longer participating. Paul Skeens will end up being the starter, most likely. But Zach Wheeler definitely should have been if he was in there. As I said, he's not necessarily the favorite to win the National League Cy Young to this point of the season, but he should be over Paul Skeens. And obviously, just look at the numbers. That's all I can tell you. I'm not going to come here and say all these numbers, compare them and all. He's going to waste so much time. But Zach Wheeler, just all the credit in the world to him. He's having a phenomenal season. Unfortunately, we won't get to see him represent the Phillies in this year's All-Star game. We will only see Kyle Schwarber will be the lone representative unless somebody gets added late here for the Phillies. But Kyle Schwarber will be the only one participating in the All-Star game this year for the Phillies. On the flip side, the person replacing Zach Wheeler was San Diego Padres reliever Adrian Morejon. Sorry if I butchered his name, but he's replacing Zach Wheeler in the All-Star game. If you watched my video yesterday, I was saying about, all the voting process and who gets in, who gets not for replacements and reserves and all that kind of stuff. And I said Ranger Suarez or Christopher Sanchez or both should have been initially All-Stars. They both weren't replacements when two National League pitchers were named as replacements the other day. The Mets had one, the Reds had one. The Phillies did not have Sanchez or Suarez be named as replacements. And then obviously for Zach Wheeler, neither of them were replacements for him either. And I think that is just crazy. Now, mostly, I did say about Zach Wheeler, a lot of pitchers that pitch on Sundays before the All-Star game don't pitch during the All-Star game just because of the rest and all that kind of factor. So Christopher Sanchez, he does pitch tomorrow for the Phillies on Sunday. So he wouldn't have pitched in the All-Star game if he was an All-Star. Now, obviously not named initially an All-Star, but that might be the reason he hasn't been named a replacement, just because they're not going to put a guy in as a replacement just to say, oh, he's not pitching, and then have to get another replacement for him. So that could be the reason for Christopher Sanchez not being an All-Star game starter. But Ranger Suarez is having a phenomenal season. He had that error yesterday, but he still did pitch well overall. Just incredible year out of him. He should have been an All-Star, but he's not. I'm not the one making decisions. If I was, Ranger Suarez would have been an All-Star this year for the Philadelphia Phillies, but we only get to see Kyle Schwarber. So if you tune in to the All-Star game, he's not a starter, Kyle Schwarber. You'll have to wait a few innings until he gets his chance to play. But something to look at, something to watch if you're missing baseball for a few days, because obviously the Phillies won't be playing for 3, 4 or so days, 5 days, whatever, how long it is. I think it's 4 days. But regardless, Kyle Schwarber is the lone representative for the Phillies. Now shifting gears again, speaking of Suarez, this time I'm talking about Arizona Diamondbacks third baseman, all-star third baseman, Eugenio Suarez. Now, a lot of trade rumors surrounding this Suarez as we get to the trade deadline. Not necessarily just focused on the Phillies, but just overall in Major League Baseball. His name is one of the hottest names on the rumor mill. I said, the Diamondbacks third baseman. He is 33. He's about to turn 34 in just a few days. He's a right-handed hitter, two-time All-Star, once in 2018 with the Reds, this year in 2025 with the Diamondbacks. He isn't having a great year, like batting average-wise for the Diamondbacks, but his power is insane. He's batting just .246 this year in 2025, but he does have a .550 slugging percentage and an .863 OPS, so the power is there for Suarez. He has 29 home runs and 75 RBIs through his first 93 games in 2025 here. His 29 home runs are the 5th most in Major League Baseball, right behind Kyle Schwarber, who has the 4th most with 30, thanks to his home run last night against the Padres. His RBIs, his 75 RBIs, Suarez is the 4th most in Major League Baseball, so the power's there, the run producing is there for him, and the Phillies could definitely benefit from another guy like that, because really Kyle Schwarber is the only one with those just incredible power numbers for the Phillies so far in 2025. He is mainly a third baseman, Suarez. He does have some experience at shortstop as well throughout his major league career, but he's mostly a third baseman. Not a great fielder. He does make some plays here and there, but his career fielding percentage is just .963, which is not great for any fielder at the major league level. And his fielding percentage in 2025 is even worse, .947, which is well below average for a fielder. But I guess he's making up for it at the plate with his 29 home runs and 75 RBIs. But, you'd like to have a guy, especially at third base. It's a tough position to play, but you need a guy there that can make the plays because it is a very tough position. And if you're making errors, if you're making mistakes, it can prove costly to a team in the long run. The Phillies obviously do have Alec Bohm at third base, so these trade rumors are a little bit weird when he's linked to the Phillies. Mostly, he's linked to the Phillies on the hypothetical or the possibility that Alec Bohm is traded elsewhere. Obviously, Alec Bohm was in trade rumors during the offseason if you were following along. His name to start the season was also in trade rumors just because, the Phillies fans were sick of him during the offseason to the start of the season when he was off to a poor start at the plate. Still finds his name in trade rumors as we get close to this trade deadline. I don't think the Phillies trade Alec Bohm. He's still a younger guy, obviously younger than Suarez here. He was an All-Star Game starter last year. He was in the Home Run Derby, all that. He's been hitting well as of late for the Phillies for pretty much most of the season besides that slow start, as I had just mentioned. Really good hitter overall. He does make some mistakes in the field, but he does make some really good plays as well at third base. So if the Phillies do end up trading Alec Bohm, then they will need a replacement, and that's where a guy like Suarez here would fit in for the Phillies to trade for as well if they were to trade Bohm. Just a lot going on in that hypothetical trade scenario, and I don't think it happens for the Phillies here this year at the deadline. But Suarez, he will be a free agent after 2025, so he would be a couple of months rental here to end the season. The Phillies would have to make a decision whether to keep him or not if they trade for him. I did say he is going to be 34, so he's getting up there in age, so that's a tough decision in itself. Having a very good year at the plate power-wise, but 34 years old, who knows if that carries over or how much longer that lasts, how much longer that's sustainable at the major league level for a guy like him. The Diamondbacks are fourth in the National League West. They are 6 games out of a playoff spot for a wild card. So they are rumored to be sellers, rumored to be, teams calling for their players. As I said, Suarez is hot on the rumor mill. Other guys, a few of their pitchers also as well. But we'll see what happens as we get into this or closer to this July 31st trade deadline. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Hennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Hopefully the Phillies can get back on track tonight against the Padres, get a win, even up the series with Zach Wheeler on the mound, and go into Sunday trying to win a series on a high note, going into the All-Star break and into the second half of the season. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, go Phils.